Codex Eldari. And yeah, they're still jerks. So, Codex Eldari. This book is Craftworld Eldar, Ynnari, Harlequins, and even Corsairs. Even though Corsairs feel very, very small in this book. But yes, you get, for the most part, 4 different space elves all shoved into one book, and you can even say Drukhari are part of this too, since they can be added on into Ynnari stuff, which is pretty nuts. I mean, this book I think is I think they're like 6 to 8 pages less than Space Marines. And I will tell you this, that unlike Space Marines, most of the units are good in this book. I think, like, overall, I found in the best character unit in this book, I think they did a pretty good job on the Guardians. They feel pretty good with options that have the 5 invulnerable saves. They are now shooting further, shooting better. So overall, I think those had a nice pump to them that you'll probably see them more often, since we need some action junkies and model stuff on there. After that, I think the Harlequins got a really nice bump to them. They seem pretty mean, pretty beefy. They're going to be able to kill stuff as can be. So that's pretty awesome on here too, since I think the way I'm feeling reading this is that you're going to see the Aeldari as the back end unit, with the Harlequins being the guys who go out there and try to touch you in a bad way and deal damage to you as they're running on the table, flipping and dancing. Swooping Hawks. Those are really interesting. The ability to, for their battle focus rule, they just get picked up and put around the table. So you can start flying around, teleporting. All the Phoenix Lords are all pretty good. I think there's some power in there. You have Moggan Raw, seems pretty beefy as a kind of a shooting monster character sitting in the back, killing you from across the field. The Avatar, while I don't think we're going to see him in games, there's a lot of good rules on him, so he seems pretty interesting. I don't know if he just fits in the current kind of meta that we have in the game, but he seems cool, so maybe we'll figure something out. I think there's obviously going to be people trying out the Foot Eldar list, everything else on there, so they're powerful. The other kind of character or unit, I think the Shining Spears look really rough, especially with the upgrade Exarch powers, which is one of the kind of cooler things in this book. Multiple layers of rules and multiple layers of kind of weird, interesting upgrades and abilities in this entire fat book of rules. And heck, they even got the webway portal to work. Like, it seems to do okay with the updated terrain rules. So you have a giant webway that you can shoot guys out and try to get victory points out of. The Harlequins, I feel, are really kind of powerful. They have 3 different kind of dances or things. There's light, dark, and everything else on there. And since you could add them a patrol into your Eldar army, and they don't lose that, which means that you start having these advanced in charge and very powerful damage dealing units that can do mortal wounds on charge, other options. You end up having this ability to create this army that you have your base protected, and you have guys that you're sending out there to sacrifice, because they're not that expensive and they are quick and they're fast and they do exactly what you need to do. And in a lot of ways, I feel that they end up working better for you than some of the aspect warriors, because they have a super quick transport unit they can put in there. They can go in there into them. Their weapons are good. They have fusion blasters. They have everything else. They have some good powerful characters and good synergy and some spells. So a simple patrol, which would just be just seems decent to have. So that's kind of why I like a lot of the Harlequins, and they have so many stratagems too that can allow redeployment. They can redeploy. The Eldars can redeploy. They have ways to do mortal wounds, different weapons they have set up. They can do other damage. They can be hard to, you can't target them. I mean, it's one of the things that I think seems very good in this book. So meta-wise, there hasn't been an Eldar release that wasn't good in the edition they were released in. And I don't expect this one to be any different. I think the biggest worry they have in general is that Tau could probably shoot them off the table, or shoot a lot of them off the table if the Tau go first. Just like the Eldar could shoot them off the table a lot if they go first. So that's where my kind of a prediction on there. Like, they're just going to be good. Like, they hit hard. They can hit hard. They can shoot you hard. They have enough little protection bits that maybe keep some of their stuff protected. But that's where they're going to be in the meta. They're going to be a continuation of the same kind of thing they did before, where they were a kind of smaller elite army that everything was good. and that's kind of what I see in this book. Luckily for us, their points are not, they're expensive, so they're not heavily pushed as some other ones. So while they're good, I don't see where you feel like there's too much on the table, like the initial AdMech release where you're like, there is too many good things on this table. It means also the same thing, like I don't know, I guess we'll start seeing, as we start seeing lists pop out, if there's going to be some kind of nerf or change or something coming, like I expected. At one point Talon, probably Custodes. So I think they're good. I think they probably play well into Custodes. They have damage potential where they can start amping up the damage into them. So that's always going to be helpful, and they're fast. And you know, having fast options in 9th edition is very important. And so these things kind of all make this book a decent book. Having higher points means that maybe you have less stuff on there, so a player can easily play and get an army pretty quickly, which I like. I think they did a good job of how they're building out the units, so it seems to be pretty easier. Everything in this book is going to be very deadly when they do damage to you, whether it's shooting or close combat. That's what they're designed to do. They're unlike so they're not necessarily glass cannon like Drukhari, but their damage output is going to be very similar, and they have, and they'll be a little bit tougher to deal with on the way back since they have psychic powers and they usually have better armor. It does mean they have an increased point cost on there, but that's the kind of things we're looking for. There's just all their weapons are going to hurt. Like, they have a really powerful no line of sight Night Spinner shooting, and with armies changing to 10 plus model units, you're going to start seeing 12 hits off of it. All their guns seem pretty good. All their guns have more attacks, better range, better AP on there. So their damage is just going to be high. I don't know how responses back is going to be rough on them, because again, they're a very squishy army. So that's kind of the way I see them in this meta, where it's going to be this very much unlike the kind of brutal razor edge fist of Dark Eldar, it's a much more elegant longsword that's going to cut your head off. I think Eldar are going to be good against just about everyone else. The only reason why I gave Tau a hit on them is that their shooting can be so rough, and they have such a large quantity of it with an army that is so elite. It makes it hard for that army to survive through that much shooting. They're not necessarily any tougher, which means that their strength 5 guns of a Tau are going to be rough on them. So it's just the fact that they just have a large amount of it, and then you mix in with a lot of no LOS, so even the battle focus, move away, everything else on there indicates that the Tau don't necessarily have to get that close to be this damaging to you. So it works all against army. This army is going to be one of those ones that can be quick, hide, move stuff around, and versus an army that doesn't care where you move around and everything else on there makes it rough. I expect the Eldar players to basically go full bore into a Tau and be like, this is what we're gonna have to do, and I'm gonna make you make mistakes. Against everything else, they feel like they're gonna be good against Custodes. Their damage can be pretty good. Their damage seems pretty high, so they can pour into stuff. Again, the Custode players living and dying on that 4-up and being aggressive into them and getting some tricks into it. A lot of the other armies will be hard for them. I mean, AdMech seems like they'll probably be strong. Some of the Orc builds, I think there's a speed freak that's going to be rough on them, because they can be just as fast and just as punishing on damage. So things how they changed in this edition. Dark Reapers no longer always hit on 3s. It was a weird rule. It made sense in the older editions, and in this new one, with modifiers linked in and locked into a certain amount, they just doesn't make sense. They always got hit on 3s. It caused some funky stuff like the Psychic Assassin just got hit by them no matter what. The other thing on there, a lot of their double move powers have a caveat that says either they can't shoot and charge or they can't charge. I think the Harlequin one says you can't charge, and the Eldar one, Enverate, which is a pretty big nerf for a move spell. It means that most likely other spells of that nature will probably be that way, which is probably good, because you don't want to have a bite going 40-something inches and then charging in the face. So those are some big changes. They've kind of tweaked some of the powers. They tweaked a lot of little things here and there. I really think the funny tweak is all the Farseers now just ignore perils. Instead of having a flat feel no pain to mortal wounds, which in this edition, we know there's a lot more ways to do mortal wounds. They just say, we just ignore peril, so we don't care about mortal wounds. That was the old way, because the only time you really got mortal wounds, bar a few things, was from perils. So now we're moving it to make it just simple, like you just ignore perils, which makes a lot of sense. Means that now you can mortal wound out Forestiers and everything else. They did a lot of like little tweaks to Harlequins. They kind of cleaned them up a little bit. They made it a little bit different and fixed some of the stuff on there that people use and abuse. Like I said, they have the different ways of their kind of like how their actors like dark, light, and like everything else. And then they tweaked Ynnari a little bit too, and kind of gave them, they're basically a craft world now, which makes sense, who can take some Dark Eldar stuff, which I think is also good. I mean, the biggest thing I feel amiss from me is that there's not like a Corsair. Like Corsairs are just here with Prince Uriel, and there are 2 units, and you're like, where's their warlord traits? Where's their specific relics? Where's their weird build? Which I'm gonna guess is all gonna show up in a campaign book. But hey, I didn't say that out loud. I think that's where I think it's gonna go. The biggest drop I feel in here is that their secondaries are not like a lot of the armies that are being really good right now have like a couple secondaries, and these don't have as much, which I think is good. Like I don't want super easy secondaries that is just like, well, I guess you're gonna get 15 or 12 or whatever, everything else. So this army has a lot tougher on it. Luckily for us, battle focus I think is good, but they have a very significant caveat where if they go into terrain, they lose 3 inches. They lose 3 inches for battle focus. So maybe we'll see you have a chance where they can't hop over a wall or hop over something because they rolled a 3 for battle focus and they go 0 inches. So luckily for us, that's good. The other crazy rule, Strands of Fate, I think is really interesting. It's a little bit clunky in the sense you have to have these, dice set aside, or you have this stuff set aside. So I expect a lot of people with laser cutters to make a lot of awesome little side things for people with this. So there you go. So that's kind of neat, where you basically roll a couple dice, and depending on which ones you get, you can pick to automatically change when the dice rolls to 6, like a wound roll, an armor save, assault roll, and I think that's kind of neat. I like the ability to have these changes every time, and making a flat shift change makes it easier and makes it nicer in some ways. So yeah, I think this book's going to be, these books have never not been good in their edition, and I don't expect anything less, especially one they've come out with this heavy, this thick, full of rules. I think we said the actual rules are like 90 something pages of rules, which is just absurd. It's marine size absurd. So I was like, which is great. It's just that something good is going to come out of here, because there's too many dang things in this book. As a player, you probably want to get some Wave Serpents, because if Tower's still rough, you want to try to buy Wave Serpents. And I think a lot of Eldar players still have a lot of armies. The one fun thing is you can get Guardian Defenders now, or Storm Guardians, which you couldn't really get because they had a terrible pewter arm and everything else on there. So now they're the box set makes them, which is pretty awesome. Because I know a lot of people didn't have them as much, because I think at the time frame that people got into Eldar heavy again, they really didn't get those or anything else. So that's awesome. The army got a lot of plastic models, which is nice. Like I said, I wish we had more Aspect Warriors, just because I think it's just hard for a player to get all of them, and they're just new in the army. But overall, it's pretty cool. I'm excited to see the Avatar when we finally get one kit look at, because I think the model looks pretty awesome. He seems all right. It's one of the few things in here, like one of the definitely army models I like a lot. And the big bloody hand of their their bloody hand of their god smashing stuff is pretty awesome. Speaking of the new minis, click out this link here and check them out. We've got some videos on them, and I'm Goboy from Bowls. Thanks for watching.